And this is not uncommon, the 4-figure cash weeks. I really want to dive into, because obviously cash is king, right? We know that you need to have cash. Revenue is great, right? Revenue is absolutely amazing. And, you obviously need to be making sales in your business, but you also need the cash flow coming in so that you can pay your bills, and so that you have money to live on, and that you can then go and expand, right? So you need the both. You need to know your revenue, but you also need to know your cash. And I want to take you behind the scenes of the 4-figure cash week. I did this yesterday on Instagram, and I got a number of DMs afterwards, specifically talking about certain things in here that I shared, right? And you might be surprised, and there's a reason I put this into the description, is don't just listen to the things that you want to do and the things that you think are necessary. Listen to everything else, because everything else is normally what creates the success that you want in your business. So for those of you that don't know me, I'm Joanne O'Halloran. I'm a business mentor, and I support coaches to be able to multiply their leads, their clients, and ultimately their revenue. And any clients that come to me, they're all the coaches. It's funny, I used to always think that it was new coaches that would come to me, but actually it tends to be coaches that are in that kind of 18 months to 3 years that are not having that consistent client and consistent cash flow coming in, and they want to know how to do it, because they've got to that point where they're like, is it possible, or is it just a show for everybody? And 100% it is possible. Like, if I'm doing it and other people are doing it, it is possible. But the one thing I really want to drive home with you for this is, please don't chase cash. Please don't chase cash. Like, one thing that drives me bananas about our industry is when people are talking about the cash months. And I've used this title on purpose because I really want to drive this message home with you. Whenever you chase cash, it's going to keep moving further and further away. And this is why whenever I'm sharing client wins, we talk about the number of sales calls that they've had, their conversion rate to clients, the number of clients that they sign, because that is what creates longevity in a business. That's what creates success in a business. And from that, cash is obviously the outcome, right? It's the outcome. Revenue is the outcome. And then that allows you to scale. But if you don't have the foundations in, which most people don't, and let me tell you what the foundations are, is knowing how to bring in quality leads, then knowing how to speak to leads so that they're a yes. And then from there, knowing how to convert them. I've yet to have one client that's coming to me who is positioning her message to her ideal client. There's a lot of mixed messaging and a lot of mixed message and a lot of poor information. And I learned this the hard way around how you actually go about attracting your clients. If I go back to when I first started my business, which I was chatting to a lady about yesterday, because we started together, and was like, oh my goodness, it's 4 years, which is just insane. But to go back to when I first started, and if you know my story, you know that I only made €2,000 in the first 8 months of my business, right? So it was not great. But if you go back to then, the things that were being taught to me was do your live on social media, send friend requests to people on Facebook, go into Facebook groups and network. But nothing was happening because there was no real strategy around how you actually develop leads. And knowing how to do that and knowing how to do it on a consistent basis is so important for your business. If you do not have new leads coming in every month, your business is going to die. And it doesn't need to be that hard. There's so many ways to do it organically that don't cost, they will cost some money in terms of time, effort. And if you have an email system, because obviously you're going to need emails. But outside of that, no, it's just about the effort that you're willing to put in. And when you know how to do that, and you know how to do that seamlessly, and you know how to repeat that, things like this are really easy, because you are building up and layering up leads to speak to so that you have that constant traction. And this is what all my clients are seeing. They're all seeing it left, right, and center. If you see any of the the posts that I share, or if you see any of the stories that I share on my social media, you can see that clients are bringing in leads. Just right now, a girl sent me a message yesterday, and I was just curious because she was booking a lot of sales calls, and I was so curious how many she had since we started working together, because I wasn't keeping track. She's had 20 sales calls in 4 months. 4 months, November, December, January. Yeah, but not even 4 months, 3.5 months. What would your business look like if you had 20 sales calls? Have another lady who has had 400 leads come in. So she had them come in the first 90 days and made 12 sales. What would that do for your business? There's another lady right now who's in the promotion of her collaborative event, which is how I teach people to bring in leads. And she, on day 2 of promotion, so the event hasn't even started yet, was at 112 leads and 2 sales. Like, this stuff works, and this is the stuff that you need to know to have this longevity in business. And yet some people still avoid it. So I just really want to drive this home first, that, you know, looking for the quick fixes isn't going to create a sustainable business for you. Chasing the cash is definitely not. And look, I'm speaking from experience. I've learned the hard way. I got caught up in like, go after these 10K months. Here's how you do these 10K months. But then actually, when you start breaking it down, it's like, it's not what you're telling me. There's a lot more to it. So I want to break this down for you so that you can see where everything is at, what it looks like, how it came to be, all that fun stuff. Okay. And as always, if you have any questions, if you're on live with me, drop them there. I can see that I have the comments open here. The same way, if you're watching the replay, just put them in the comment section wherever you're watching this on, and I will respond. Okay, so the first one is, and my clients hate me for this, but love me for it too. You always want to, so every week, let me go back a step. Have planned out your year to know what it is that you're going to create in a 12-month period. So what is your business plan? What is your like, what is the number of clients that you're going to serve? What's that revenue going to look like? So that you have your projections. Okay, so you have that 12 months, and you know how you're going to bring in your leads. Then you break it down into your quarterly period, then you break it down into your monthly, and then you break it down into your weekly. Every week you want to be declaring what your goal is for that week. What is it that you're going to make happen no matter what? Not, I hope it will, I think it will, maybe it will. If it doesn't, that's okay. No, what is it that you're going to make happen in that week? And then you want to do that every single solitary day. So let me give you a very specific example. If, for example, you say, I'm going to sign 2 clients this week. Great, right? Amazing, right? I'm doing this based on one of my own clients. Sign 2 clients this week. Amazing. You then get to go every day and go, well, what do I need to do to make that happen? One of them being connect with your leads that you already have, another one being build up new connections, etc. But you've got to declare it every week, or every week and every day. So that's what I do. Every day, or every week, I declare exactly what I'm going to create in any given week. Okay. So last week, I'm just going to tell you exactly what it was. So last week, my sales were 8,000. That was my sales. My cash revenue, so my sales, so my revenue was 8,000. My cash was 3,152. To give you the specifics, that was cash, new cash, right? New cash, new sales, new cash, new sales. So that's what it was. So I had made a declaration last week of how many clients I wanted to sign and into what programs. Okay, so that was clearly declared out. Every day then I had a declaration of what it was going to take for me to do that. So, you know, how many connections did I need to make? Who was I following up with? Was there people that were already hot that just I need to have a conversation with? Like, whatever it was, I did that every single solitary day, and you get to do the same. And what most people don't want to do, they don't want to declare what it is that they're going to make happen because they're terrified that it's not going to happen. And this is the beautiful thing about business, right? We are 100% responsible for everything that we create, even when we don't want to be. It's like, sometimes I don't want to adult. I don't want to, but I have to. So when you're making that declaration, you've no idea whether or not it's going to happen. It's a great time, like every day then, for you to get to the end of the day and go, did I actually follow through on what I said I was going to do? And if I did, great. Did it give me the results that I wanted? And if no, why no? Because it's never, 99% of the time, it's never the strategy. Like, it's not the strategy 99% of the time. 99% of the time, it's how we're approaching it, because it's either, you know, we made something else more important, or we didn't give it our all. You know, we let fear drive us. We avoided having conversations. We avoided connecting with certain people. There was opportunities that were there, but because of fear, or, you know, whatever excuses we had, we closed those doors. So it's really important that you look at that at the end of every day, so that you can see what exactly happened, And then if it happened in the way that you wanted to, amazing, double down on it, focus on it, make it happen. If it didn't, it's time to reflect inside. Because I can tell you this now, the one thing I've learned and has shown up over and over and over again in the last 4 years of business is if you are not leading yourself from the front, so if you are not coming from an empowered place, if you are not being hyper aware of the thoughts that you have and the impact that they're having on the way that you're showing up, things are never going to go the way that you want them to, ever. And I've also learned, so in addition to that, so it's on the same thing, in addition to that, if you set an expectation for how and when an outcome is going to happen, and I will come back to this in a minute because I can already hear the questions, but how and when an outcome is going to happen, you're going to close off the ability to make it happen. So what I mean by that is when you're making a declaration of what you're going to create in a week, just like I did, just like I do every week, you have no proof that it's going to happen. You can't know for sure that it is, but you have to trust yourself, and you have to trust that you're going to take the action steps and say yes to the opportunities, and do the things that it's going to take because you're being brave and you're being courageous. But if let me give you an example. If, for example, I wanted to make 2 sales this week and I was committed that the only way it was going to happen was from me going live, nothing else. I'm going to go live, I'm going to make an offer, and 2 people are going to sign up. And then if they don't, well, it just didn't happen. That's not being committed to your goal. That's being conditional about how it's going to come about and when it's going to come about. So these are things that you want to reflect on every single solitary day. And I'm sharing this, and I share this repeatedly, because to have success in business, you've got to operate from a place of being responsible, not taking responsibility, because they're not the same thing. And you can watch a video I did on that previously, but being responsible. So being responsible means that you understand that if it's going to happen, it's down to you, nobody else. It's nobody else's fault. It's nobody else's responsibility to make it happen. It's yours. And I'm going to be honest, it's quite challenging when like you start playing around with this and operating from that place, because you realize that the pathway in front of you isn't clear, and there's obstacles that you've got to overcome to be able to create what it is that you want. But it is 100% possible. And I really invite you to have the support around you to do this. So something that myself and my clients do is every Monday, declarations are made. Done. And then we review them then the following week. So that every Friday they fill in like accountability pieces, and then we have a look at them to see where they're at. So we'll talk about whether or not they followed through on their commitments on their calls. But in your space, if you don't have a mentor, well, first of all, I recommend that you get one. But second of all, if you don't, create accountability partners so that you're holding yourself to your word, to your own word and your own commitment that you made to yourself, so that you can make it happen. Like, I'm driving this home, and if you're going, what has this got to do with behind the scenes of 4-figure cash weeks? This is the stuff that people don't want to hear and they don't want to do, but it's what makes the difference in all this. Okay, so then strategically then, so most of these aren't strategic. Most of these are like leadership and mindset pieces. But strategically, I looked at what worked last month, and then I doubled down on it. So I knew last month that having the connected conversations and going live worked a treat. Every time I went live last month, I booked a call. So that was feedback for me to tell me that my message was landing. So double down on them, and then having connected conversations with people that I knew were hot leads, how I framed the message to them also move things forward. So that's something else to be mindful of. So when I was looking at the messages that I had been sending to people previously, like as in I was having connected conversations with people. And conversations don't, like, you don't want all your conversations to be sales. You want them to be genuine connections, you know? Like I had a conversation with somebody the other day about lipstick. You know, like you want to have genuine connections, like real connections, but no intention that to sell, but to give generously. But when I looked at the conversations that I was having, I could see that I had held back on where I knew somebody wanted to move forward and become a client. I had held back because they hadn't asked the question, so I didn't make the offer. And then, sure, I had to have the conversation with myself, is that it's invitation. You're inviting somebody, they have an option to say no if they want to. So that was feedback for me. So that was where I went with that. The next thing then, and this is something that I do anyway, regardless, is I always give people what they want. So if you ever see me putting up polls, or if you're on my email list, you will see surveys going out to ask questions, or even just on my general emails, I'm always asking questions. And the reason being is that I want to be able to gather information to make sure that I'm putting out stuff that supports you, because my business isn't about me, it's about you. And if there's something that you want within your business, there's something that you want to know, there's something that you want to understand, there's something that you want to learn, I can't know that if I don't actually go out and seek the information. And I'm not being a responsible business owner from waiting on you to tell me, and I'm not asking the questions. So I will always have a look, and it changes month on month, right? Depending on the year. So I find this coming up to Christmas, people want to know how to make sales, right? I've seen that for the last 2 years. Coming into January, people want to know how to have the longevity in business. It's really fascinating. Coming up to like Valentine's Day, Black Friday, people want to know how to make the quick sales. Like, how do you make the smaller call it smaller ticket items, but as in like the lower investments, so like the 27, 47, 77, 97, 127, those kind of ones, the lower investments. How do you capitalize on them? So it's really interesting that at different times of the year people are looking for different things, but the only way to know this is to ask them, right? Is to ask. So when you are asking people, so I asked people specifically what was it that they wanted to know for the last couple of weeks, and one of the biggest thing was like, how did you do it? Like, how did you actually do it? And like, then I went back and asked, going, do you want to actually know how I did it, or do you want me to sugarcoat it and say, if you do this, this will happen? They were like, no. So that's why there's been such talk about leadership and responsibility and commitment, because that is what it took. Like, there was a lot of backside dealings with it, like in terms of my own mind, how I was approaching things, like coming from that place of responsibility, because really I was being like a victim to my own circumstances. You know, I really wanted somebody to just come along and tell me what to do. And I'm not talking about figuring it out on your own, because you need support. Everybody needs support, and I've never not had a mentor. But I mean, in terms of talking it out and being open to seeing what's not working. And I wasn't until I got the support. So it's something that you need to be aware of, because I shared on my live yesterday, integrity is a big thing, right? And you want to make sure you're always operating in integrity. And a lot of people aren't, and they're not even aware that they're not. And it comes from like having so many excuses and reasons and stories as to why. And we've been like completely conditioned to feel this way and to see this way and to talk this way. And like I'm sure you've heard people say, like, you just want to go with the flow. And the thing is, you actually don't want to go with the flow, because going with the flow is where everybody's going, and we can see that it's not working for people. So if you stop and stand up and go, no, this is my stand in the world, this is my opinion, this is what I'm going to make happen, and I feel scared about it, and here's all the reasons I feel scared. That takes courage, you know, but it also takes the work in order to be able to do this. So all of this goes on behind the scenes. Then from another strategy point of view, there's automations in place in my business. So whenever somebody opts into something, and I've talked about this before, if you go back on my pages, you'll see it, how to automate a freebie. So it's the same thing. But there's a lot of automations in there. So what that looks like for me is if somebody opts into something, so like if you want to download one of the freebies, if you want to access a masterclass, if you buy one of those lower investments, if you opt into an event, like things like that, I have automations already set up so that I don't even have to worry about it. So there's like email sales nurturing happening already. So that's where leads are being warmed up for me already. So that's happening in the background. So do you remember I said to you I wanted it to be super transparent? The sales that were made last week, 2 lower ticket ones, I had no idea who they were. Like, honestly, had no idea who they were. Like, as in, they're not somebody I was interacting with on social media. They were not somebody that had been on masterclass. They were not somebody that was obviously interacting with me. So I had no idea who they were. Then I had somebody who, high ticket client, who I had multiple conversations with over her business over the last 3 years, and she was now finally ready to jump. Amazing. So you've got to be able to warm up your audience and do it like intentionally and have it in flow. So that's how you do it, is through automations. The last thing then that I will say is the words that come out of your mouth matter, right? So the same way the words that you say to yourself matter, the words that come out of your mouth matter. And you have to be able to say to people, whether you're live or in front of them, things that may be uncomfortable for you to say, but that people need to hear. So we always want to talk about what people want, but then we have to give them the real cold hard truth around what it actually looks like. Like, so for me, the one thing that I'll always drive home with my clients is, and I say these on lives too, is you can keep trying to do this by yourself, but I'm telling you now, you cannot figure it out on your own. And I'm not trying to make people wrong, but you're trying to figure out something that you've no idea. I literally, so I have a lady that started yesterday, and her exact words to me were, I tried to copy exactly what you were doing and it didn't work. Exactly, because you don't have all the nuances and the behind the scenes and the support to move it forward. Like, you don't know the intricacies of things. So you've got to be able to tell people like the reality of it. Like that poor lady yesterday, she has struggled for 3 years because she refused to do a higher investment. And in fact, when we looked at everything that she had invested, all her lower investment items have added up to way more than what she's paying me. But she's going to get results, if you know what I mean. So, like, what is it that your ideal client need? What is it that they need to hear that you're afraid to say to them? And don't get me wrong, it takes practice, and you definitely have to be brave, but it does take practice, and you have to trust that people are going to hear it in exactly the way that they need to. Like, you're not there to condemn people. You're not there to wag your finger. You know, you're not there to make somebody else wrong for you to be right, but you still need to be honest with them and share with them that, look, this is the reality of the situation. You know, it's the reality of the situation, and this is what is required. So, like, what I will say to you guys is, if you really, like, if 2023, 2022, 2021, 2020, whatever it is, has not seen you having consistent clients and you're still doing the same thing, that's feedback for you that something's not working. The same way, if you're that bit newer and you're like, I just want to get this going, then you're going to have to find somebody who's going to show you how to do it. And what I will say is, every strategy works. It's the person behind it that may work. So just keep that in mind. Every strategy works, but it's the person behind it that makes it work. So I will leave it at that. But that is behind the scenes of 4 figures cash in my business, which was over 3K cash last week and 8K in revenue. And like I said, very little of it is strategy. The majority of it is how you're showing up and how you're being and the words that are coming out of your mouth. And that's not going to change. That's not going to change. So any strategy will work. You just have to find the one that is aligned with you, and that will show you how you bring in leads on a consistent basis. I cannot stress enough, on a consistent basis, how you warm them up, like, and how you nurture them, how you get to know them, how you find out about them, how you let them get to know you, and then how you bring them in to convert them to clients, those that are your ideal clients, and the ways to be able to do that. So make sure that you find somebody that can support you with that. So I will leave it at that. And if this is something that you want to know more about, I've left my call link there for you to book a call. I do have a couple of call spaces today. I don't work on a Friday, so I'll have none tomorrow. And then I have a handful next week, not a whole pile. So drop me a line if this is something that you want to talk about further, and have an amazing day.